Hey everybody, this is Kyle. I just want to throw in a quick disclaimer at the start of this because the audio quality is not what we expected it to be. I just didn't want anybody to get caught off guard by that. You might hear some buzzing at some points from my microphone specifically. At other points, you might hear Discord making noises in the background despite us having streamer mode on while we recorded this show. So, I apologize for that. We're going to try and make sure that none of this kind of stuff happens going forward. But I just wanted to make sure everybody knew going forward that that was what was going on in this video. It will not be like that next week, and enjoy the show. And it's next week. We are back again with another show. Only two people in this one. It is myself, Kyle Riley, the host as always, alongside Arnold Columbia. Arnold, say what's up.
Buenos Aires, my friends.
Matt is not here. He got abducted by aliens. Mike also is not here. Got the coronavirus, unfortunately. We're joking. He doesn't really have that, thankfully.
You don't know that.
Well, as we're recording, he doesn't have that. That could change in the next 5 minutes. Who knows? That being said, Arnold, I hear you have some news regarding the coronavirus and F1, so we're going to start with that this week.
The coronavirus continues to just wreck every single racing series this season. F1 announced, I think it was like last week or a while ago, that Bahrain was going to be run without spectators. So, which actually kind of surprised me because Bahrain doesn't even have that many cases right now, or at least I don't think they do. So, bit of a shocker to me, but I guess I could see why they it doesn't really affect me personally because I was not going to attend that race, and I don't know a single person who was. I don't know. It's just going to be kind of weird on the grid, I guess, because it's not going to have that same spectacle, atmosphere that all the other F1 races have with all the celebrities on the grid. This race, you're going to have usually have the oil barons or whatever. I think who went there once? It was Jackie Stewart or someone went there last year. So it's gonna be weird, a weird sight without all those people on the grid, So
It could be a sign of things to come in even American sports. I know the NBA was considering doing something like that. But
yeah, in Italy, they canceled their soccer league, and that's also something that's gonna affect F1 because the entire country got put on lockdown 2 hours ago, which is absolutely insane. First time since World War II that something like that's happened.
And you have to think maybe that's part of the reason why that they're making sure there's no spectators at Bahrain, because think about it. There's a lot of F1 based teams, mechanics even for other teams. All it takes is one of them having the sickness, and if you have, tens of thousands of people at a racetrack, it could easily spread to all of those people too.
Yeah.
So if a place I don't know the situation with where Bahrain is, specifically, but if they have things under decent control right now, you wouldn't want to risk that by having tens of thousands of people near people who may have the sickness.
Yeah, and also the thing with Italy being locked down now is, once again, Ferrari and AlphaTauri no one knows what's going to happen with them. If they're even going to be able to get to the races. Because it's sounding like it's going to be, you can't leave unless it's for essential travel, whatever they classify that as. So, I don't know if F1 teams are even going to get a pass. I don't know what's going to happen with this season. It's kind of just mental right now. I don't think anyone really knows what's going to happen. But yeah, definitely it's a sign of things to come, because I'm sure races like France has a bunch of cases right now. Germany has a bunch of cases. I guess Germany don't have a race this year, but Italy is I'm 99.9% sure that's not going to happen. So yeah, it's all pretty mental. I just want Corona-chan to leave us alone so I could watch F1. That's all I want. Thank you.
And for all we know, this could start affecting other motorsports around the world. We know, IndyCar has a lot of people who come from overseas.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
America has more and more cases every day. So we could definitely see this play out in other ways, shapes, or forms. We definitely hope that it doesn't and things start to slow down, but, none of us are scientists. You can't really take our word for anything on this, and we're just going to have to see.
Yeah.
But
you have to catch a flight, though.
Definitely. You can pay $10 to get anywhere on the world right now. Round trip.
Round trip to Italy, probably $2. Yeah.
If you're bringing hand sanitizer, they actually pay you to put checked bags in. It's pretty crazy. So, anyways,
definitely.
On a much less serious note, we had ARCA this week. And we're going to start off with the worst of the week segment because, wow, was it a mess. And it's nothing to do with the drivers, it's nothing to do with the on-track product, it's specifically to do with all the officials and the pit road rules. If you didn't know or didn't see the race, They used the rules that we're going to be seeing in the Xfinity and the Truck Series this year on the standalone events, where you can only take 2 tires if you wanted to get fuel, or you can get 4 tires and pit a second time for the fuel. This done to be a little bit more cost efficient, so teams don't have to fly out Cup crews every single time it's a standalone race. But it gets the worst of the week because everybody was ignoring the ARCA officials. People were pulling up into positions they did not deserve to be in, and it was just chaos all completely. They were 3 and 4 wide under yellow. It was just an absolute train wreck for a little while. There was like a 10-lap caution, and
I didn't watch. How bad was it? Like, how long did it take for them to figure it out? Like, what the running order was supposed to be?
it was legitimately like 15 laps when it was like 20 laps to go. So they had a caution with like 25 to go. In my notes, let me see what happened here. So I think it was Thad Moffitt that blew a tire. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. It was a long green run, kind of. Thad Moffitt either made contact or something. He blew a tire. Everybody came to pit because it was a long run, and they had soft tires just like the Xfinity and Cup teams did. And for whatever reason, there was a lot of strategy that played out, and it made a lot of the fast teams go to the back. Like Ty Gibbs was probably the dominant car of the day. He was the dominant car of the day. Let me not say probably. And he ended up like 10th or whatever. A bunch of the fast guys were back there, and everybody ahead of them took either 2 tires or didn't take anything at all. Didn't come down pit road. And this just wrecked the brains of every crew chief. Like nobody knew what was going on.
I'm just glad the ARCA energy is there to stay, you know?
Yeah,
like
this was definitely
it's just a part of their DNA.
this was definitely the ARCA we've seen every single year except for recently. So yeah, about 10 minutes go by where people are just in the wrong spot. They keep getting to the line, turning off the pace lights, and then they get about halfway through turns 1 and 2, and then they're back on because people haven't given their spots up yet. Eventually, I think it was the 23 car, actually got just black flagged because he didn't listen to anybody and stayed in his spot when it was wrong. So he had to serve that, I believe, under green before they had the next caution. And then, as if things could not get worse, they did. Because somehow, there was a 1-lap shootout instead of a green-white checker in a NASCAR series. I thought all these rules were going to go away when NASCAR actually bought ARCA, but evidently they didn't because there was a restart with 1 lap to go. Ty Gibbs was, I believe, in 4th or 3rd, and he ended up actually losing a spot on the restart. And it pretty much just gave the win to Chandler Smith. Not that he did a bad job, he was up front a lot of the day too, just not in the lead because Tyler Gibbs was so fast by comparison. And, you know, he should be. He's in a Gibbs car. But other than that, I think it was a solid race. There was a really good field of cars, both East, West, and ARCA combined this week. It was a really good event, and I think we all had a good time watching it, other than the one really dramatic mess up that they made in the race control. So after that, there was a very, very normal NASCAR weekend, thankfully. It started with the Xfinity Series on Saturday. Really, really, really good race, I thought, all things considered. There was a lot to dive into. It started pretty simple. Austin Cindric was one of the fastest people. Kyle Busch, obviously, is Kyle Busch, and he took the lead very soon. A lot of incidents throughout the day, mostly because Xfinity has typically been the more chaotic of the two series. This weekend that was not the case. We'll get to that later. But, you know, you had the 07 spin. There was a wreck between Brandon Brown and I think it was Dylan Bassett or Ronnie Bassett. Let me see, actually. I have the racing reference thing pulled up.
One of the Bassets, you know.
It was Dylan Bassett.
I think it was Dylan, yeah.
Yeah, both of them ended up involved in a story which we're going to get into momentarily. But Colby Howard, which is somebody I've never heard of before, was in one of the JD Motorsports cars. He absolutely knocked down the wall in turn 2. And that led to a little bit of strategy at the end of stage 2. Noah Gragson somehow held off a bunch. Actually, no, he had fresh tires, and he passed all the people that had older tires ahead of him. Definitely a really good race. Ross Chastain battled a power steering problem. He was one of the guys that were up front, and then he had to start battling from the rear. He was actually, I think, a lap or 2 down after fixing it. Had a couple accidents. A couple people blew right front tires. I know Joe Nemechek tried knocking the wall down in the 47 car. And Daniel Hemrick, man, wow, he has had a rough year and a half. And that was no different this Saturday. He ended up getting loose underneath, let me see my notes here, underneath Brad Keselowski in a 12 car. He ended up collecting a few people, the 36, and both the green light cars. And man, was he sad or what on Twitter?
Yeah, it was really bad. Like, I just think he needs like he said in his tweet, basically, he just needs some results to get that confidence back, because it's got to be at an all-time low right now, honestly. Like, what was it? Wrecked last week, wrecked this week. Like, the last couple months of his Cup season were pretty bad too. And I don't know. Like, I like him as a person, but like, I feel like he's never really done anything too impressive. You know, like his start to the Cup season last year was decent enough, but it just feels like he hasn't done enough to like turn heads.
He's always been one of those guys that, you can tell he has speed, and you can tell that he does know what he's doing most of the time, but he'll just have like that one mistake, and it'll take a day where he was running 8th all day to a 25th place finish. And that's
Yeah,
always been his problem, is that he doesn't have the high end speed that it takes to kind of, mask all these other mistakes. Look at a guy like Brad Keselowski. Brad had a lot of rough races when he was just starting out in Xfinity. And I don't think anybody really cared because when he wasn't having a bad day, he was battling for the win or at least a top 3 or 4. But with a guy like Hemrick, he just never shown that he can do that.
Look at what Reddick's doing in his old car. Like he was up there during most of the race before he had that problem.
Yeah, all it took was, a couple little mistakes from him. But he was up in second at one point, which was really ironic because he was in the IM second car.
Yeah, that was funny, yeah.
And the elephant in the room, one really, really, really strange thing happened at the end of the Xfinity race. And, this is gonna sound like a joke, and especially coming from us because a few weeks ago even we were talking about how surprising it was he was even competing for anything relevant at all. But we got to give credit where it's due. Brandon Jones just straight up out drove Kyle Busch at the end of that race. I don't know if it was the car, I don't know if it was him, but nonetheless he just ran him down, passed him with 2 or 3 to go, and I don't think anybody on the planet saw that coming.
Yeah, honestly, well, I don't know. I don't know if Kyle was giving it 100%. You feel me? But definitely, I'm not trying to take away from it because it is impressive.
It's Kyle Busch. When is he not giving it 100%?
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah.
He might not have had the car, but I don't think there was any chance at all that he wasn't trying to win that race. He's not saving up his ability for the bounty races.
No, he is. He's got to defend his money or defend Kevin Harvick's money.
Save big money at Menards. And then, obviously, had a little bit of fireworks after the race with both Bassett brothers trying to fight Brandon Brown, which was kind of weird because if you look at the accident, it was more of a racing deal. They were both kind of going for the middle groove, right on that transition where the PJ1 compound came in, which, by the way, was crazy this week. I think that really improved the racing. I don't think I've ever seen people use the high side in 3 and 4, or old 1 and 2, however you look at it.
It work. Yeah.
They were flying. I think that was definitely the preferred groove in 1 and 2. A lot of people were really never venturing down from there except for on the very exit of the corners to get the runoff. And, I mean, it improved the racing. The Xfinity race was great. We've seen Xfinity, even with a few more chaotic events in the past few years, never really had a good race, I don't think. You look at a lot of the elimination races right before Homestead in the past few seasons, and it was really just one guy doing really good things in a car, going fast. It would be Christopher Bell some weeks. It would be, a couple years ago we had Eric Jones doing stuff like that. They would just pull away from the field, and that'd be it. And they might make a bunch of passes, but if it's just them, it's not really that great of an event. This year, that was not the case. There was battles the whole day, a lot to look forward to, and it really set the table for what eventually happened on Sunday. What did you think about this race?
Yeah, I thought it was great. Hopefully it's going to keep up with the trend of great Xfinity racing this season.
Definitely. And then, obviously, we had the Cup race, and a lot of people didn't know what to make of this. And a lot of people were really, 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 I don't want to say concerned, because I feel like that should be reserved for a lot worse things in life. But people were concerned going into this, because obviously the season is going to finish at Phoenix this year, to many people's dismay going into this weekend. But
I never really got that, honestly. Even with the old, obviously with the package last year, yeah, it was hot garbage. I couldn't tell you a single thing that happened at Phoenix last season. But in the grand scheme of things, there's a lot worse tracks it could have been. Phoenix you can work with it, as they showed here with the new package.
Well, that's the thing, is even with the lower downforce, look at years like 2018 or 2017. Do you know of anything that happened in those races? Because
I can tell you what happened in 2016.
Well, that's one example, but think about the 2 years that we had the lowest downforce on the things possible. I don't think many people remember anything from those races. There were 4 of them to choose from. So I think that it's more than just the package of this track. However, this weekend that was not the case, because it was great start to finish, in my opinion. It all started out with a lot of people moving around in 3 and 4, and wow, was it refreshing to see cars get sideways or what? I think it was Kyle Busch that was getting out of control the first 10 laps. Every time he came off turn 2, the thing would be slinged out sideways, and it just felt right. I don't know if it felt, more like NASCAR this whole season until then. Ricky Stenhouse was our first caution. He backed into the fence in turns 1 and 2. I forget if he actually made contact or if he just looped it, but
I
nonetheless,
think he banked it in.
either
I think he
way,
got some ground damage. Yeah.
his car was thankfully okay. I think he finished on the lead lap. Let me actually check that. This is the ARCA results. Yeah, he actually completed on the lap still. Got a pretty decent finish in 22nd. Definitely not where he wanted to be, but after being in an accident, that's almost all you can hope for. But it's not all you can hope for because Brad Keselowski was in the very next wreck. Denny Hamlin went into turn 2, or actually that's turn 3, and kind of just went bowling. He wasn't trying to do anything dangerous or anything like that, but he definitely missed a corner. Took himself, Ryan Blaney, and Brad Keselowski out. All three of them made contact with the wall. Thankfully for Brad, though, he kind of just grazed it. A little bit of a glancing blow on the driver's side, and they got it completely fixed, pretty much, because he was battling for the lead a lot the rest of the day. And if things go a little differently, maybe he wins that race, because he was definitely in the driver's seat before some of those late yellows.
Yeah, just unfortunate for Blaney to get taken out like that because he definitely had a decent piece. But yeah, just Denny Hamlin doing his thing.
After that, we had a few other things happen. Obviously, Austin Dillon was having a really rough day. First, he had a loose wheel, pitted from I think 20th or something like that. Went a lap down, and then on that very same run, he ended up blowing a right front tire, knocking down the wall. That pretty much ended his day. Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott was one of those guys that was also battling up for the lead. He ended up having a loose wheel, or actually, yeah, it was a loose wheel. Ended up having to make another pit stop early in, I think it was stage 2, and had to lose a bunch of time, lost a lap. Eventually, he made that up and went on to compete. And then Quinn Houff. I don't know what else to say about Quinn Houff. This is the fourth week. This is the fourth week in a row where we've had to talk about the Starcom car. And if you're in a Starcom car, we shouldn't be talking about you. Because even if you have a good day in that thing, you should be 29th. You should be doing exactly what Landon Castle did. But yet again, he's in the headlines kind of because he drove the car actually for 3 or 4 laps without oil. Did you see that tweet? They put out a tweet.
I did not see that.
They lost complete oil pressure, and he decided, yeah, I'm going to stay out. And he still drove around.
Going.
And then eventually, as cars do without any oil in them, blew the engine, hit the wall off turn 2, and if the engine wasn't going to end his day, that definitely did.
Were they telling him to come in and he just didn't? Or
The way the tweet was worded, actually, let me hold it up, because the way the tweet looked, it looked that he either just wasn't paying attention, which is very bad because that means that he wasn't looking at his gauges, or it means that he just didn't care and decided, yeah, this is my team. I'm going to stay out and risk everything, even though we have no budget and Derek Cope is our owner.
That's just some smooth brain moves, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know what he was thinking. Is Starcom 2Ms?
I don't know. I don't think it matters, honestly. You'll probably find it without that.
Yeah, it didn't pop up. But anyways, let me look at this official... Did they delete it? They may have deleted it. That's even funnier. Oh, no.
Ooh.
It's gone now. But yeah, there was a tweet saying something along the lines of how they had won around the track without any oil pressure. I don't know what that means if they deleted it. I don't know if Quinn Houff's team was unhappy, like his PR people and such. But nonetheless, the tweet is now gone.
That's crazy.
That's very interesting. I don't know what to make of that.
I think I know what to make of that.
Somebody's not happy. There's going to be inter-team rivalries. But let's move on from that because at the end of the day, there was so much more to talk about this race. Eric Jones ended up bringing up the next caution. That was after a bunch of people had crazy strategy too that shook up the field. Eric Jones was one of the people who took 2 tires after the Quinn Houff caution. Did not work for any of them, but definitely worked out the worst for him because he just lost it, backed it into the fence. That really ended his chance at having any sort of a good day. And, you got to feel for him because he's driving this whole season under pressure because Christopher Bell's not going to spend his whole career in that 95 car. And Joe Gibbs definitely isn't going to let him stay there or go somewhere else.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. He's
every
definitely
week-
feeling the pressure.
Every week that goes by, the clock ticks down and he knows that he's got to perform. That's a really tough position to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I hope it works out for him, but right now it's not looking... Well, it's not like Christopher Bell's exactly lighting the world on fire, so I could see him maybe spending more time in the 95, but I think right now it's not looking great for old E. Jones.
Definitely not. And then yet again, we had more chaos, which caused a bunch of people to have different pit strategies. We had a couple other people have bad luck. Tyler Reddick also ended up blowing a right front tire, and he hit the wall very, very hard. That ended his chance at a good day. And from there on, we just kind of had people blow tires or people spin out, and people just did different things in the pit stop, and that really set the tone for how the rest of the race was going to go, because then you had um, there was a near wreck on the restart with Brad and Chase Elliott at one point, where Brad made serious contact and saved it. The 17 car, which for some reason, by the way, I just want to point this out. This is a side note. I can never see the 17 car and think, oh yeah, that's Chris Buescher.
I've done the same thing. It's crazy.
I'm usually okay with that. Like, the first time I saw the 20 car in 2013, I was like, oh yeah, that's Matt Kenseth. The first time I saw the 24 car when it was the Napa car, I was like, oh, yeah, that's Chase Elliott. But I see that Sunny D car, the Fastenal car, and I just think, yeah, that's Ricky Stenhouse. Even if it's battling Ricky Stenhouse, I think they're both Stenhouse, and I don't understand.
He's been in the same car for like the past 6 years, you know? Like, you don't think about it, but it's been a hot minute that he's been in that car, so I guess fair enough. It's gonna take a while to get used to that.
But definitely, yeah. Nonetheless, he did hit the wall, which is unfortunate because I feel like Roush has definitely fallen off since Daytona for very obvious reasons. They're still waiting on Ryan Newman to come back, and that probably put a huge, huge damper on what they wanted to do this year. Because as good as Ross Chastain is, everybody on the show is going to agree with me when we say that Ross is good, but he doesn't have that veteran experience you can get from somebody like Newman.
Yeah, they don't really have a top driver to fall back on, you know? They just have Chris Buescher in his limited experience, and you have Ross Chastain in his even more limited experience. So, like, what are you going to do there?
Yeah, definitely a lot of that. And it's definitely showing in their performance because they came out guns a-blazing this year. They had to speed everywhere, and I know it's Daytona, but you have to realize that Daytona is closer to the intermediates than ever before. So some of that should carry over, if not the majority of it. But anyways, something very interesting happened on the next restart. There was a lot of rivalry going on between Eric Almirola and Martin Truex, and then we had a late restart where Eric Almirola just decided, yeah, that 19 car is my brake pedal, and just turned him into turn one. He almost took out Jimmy Johnson in the process, effectively ended Martin Truex Jr.'s day. What do you think about that, Arnold?
Oh, I have a dog in this fight, so I'm going to be as biased as possible. He's had something coming to him, bro. Just the way he's been on the radio, the way he's been mad at every single person, racing like he's got high blood pressure or something, just going out there so pissed every single race. I mean, I guess that's how it's always been, but I feel like Cole Pern definitely did a good job keeping him under control, which is not being replicated right now. So yeah, he was racing hard. Oh wait, you go.
Yeah, I was gonna say I agree with that 100% because if you look at any of the radioactives, you'll hear Martin Truex's current crew chief. I think his name is James Smalley. He's on the radio and he's like, "Yeah, go get him." He's not trying to calm him down. He's like pumping him up about it.
Yeah, exactly. He's like egging him on, and that obviously culminated in. Even before that, there was some coming together between them. I think Jeff Gordon was talking about on the broadcast how they were getting into each other on the backstretch. And then, yeah, it finally happened. Eric just decided, yeah, I'm not breaking this time, and just put him in the wall. Honestly, felt like it was deserved. I think Martin Truex needs a kick in the balls, basically, to get his season back going, to like get back on track, basically. Figure it out.
Yeah, he's had a very un-Martin Truex start to the season, at least with Gibbs equipment. But past that, we had a restart where Brad Keselowski pretty much just got bullied to third. First, he got passed by Logano pretty aggressively, and then Harvick did essentially what Eric did to Martin Truex, and he just pushed him. Thankfully, the two cars was able to save it, but he lost the position and almost lost third in the process. And that looked like it was going to be it. That looked like, okay, that's the run. This is how the rest of the race is going to go. They're going to finish something similar to this. And then Ross Chastain got spun for the second time in 4 weeks. 3 weeks, actually, because he didn't even race Daytona for the 6 car. At Vegas, he got turned around off turn 2, and it kind of set the stage for all that chaos we saw. And the same exact thing happened here. He was trying to pass. Actually, I don't know who he was trying to pass, but he ended up having to check up off of turn 2. William Byron had nowhere to go, and he spun him down to the inside. Definitely a racing deal, but that made things very, very chaotic. We had essentially a green white checker that wasn't a green white checker because it was the actual last 2 laps scheduled for the race. John Hunter Nemechek and Rick Stenhouse ended up spinning to the inside, which is a heartbreaker for John Hunter Nemechek because he has been one of the stories of the year, in my opinion. He has spent so much time overperforming in that 38 car.
Absolutely, yeah. I think him and Corey LaJoie have just been every week out there outperforming. John Hunter Nemechek was ahead of most of the other rookies, actually, which have been, frankly, underperforming. Well, Tyler Reddick was already done at this point. Custer actually had a good day, which he definitely needed because he was absolutely nowhere the last 2 races. So yeah, definitely good day for Custer. He needed that.
Yeah, I think it's hard to argue that he's not the most impressive rookie because John Hunter has probably finished about 5 or 6 positions, or at least run 5 or 6 positions above where his car should, and all the
Yeah.
others have been behind except for Brennan Poole, who is somehow still kind of doing a decent job in the 15, despite the fact that Premium puts in zero effort. They don't. They just bring a car. That's it. They bring a car. They might bring a pit crew. Maybe. That's it.
Poole's actually ahead of Christopher Bell in points right now. Bell's got 26 points. He's had real rough go at it this season.
Nonetheless, we had a restart to end the race. Another green white checker, and Joey Logano pretty much at the inside of this track right now. If you're starting on the bottom, you have such a tremendous advantage because you could just turn it hard left, go all the way to the inside wall, and by the time you come back up, if you're in the front row, you're going to be clear. There's going to be nobody worried about you. And it's all battle for second from that point, and that's exactly what we saw. Joey Logano pulled out to a decent advantage. Nobody could run him down, despite the fact that I would say Harvick had the best car all day. I think most of us would agree with that. But there was just nothing he could do. So good win, Joey Logano. Second win of the year. Great start for him. Great start for Penske all around, really. All three of their cars have been really fast. What did you think about this race, Arnold? Was it great?
I had a fun time watching it. I was kind of like half juggling it. I only really paid attention for the last 50 laps. But yeah, it was a fun race. On the restarts, it was just insane every single time. It was just a mess, like 3, 4 wide. And it was interesting at the end. Like, there could have been a battle for the win. Obviously, it didn't happen. But there was still some intrigue. Like, I thought when Brad and Joey were getting together, I thought we could have seen a bit of a boiling over of the emotions from the past couple weeks there. But it's not going to happen today. I feel like it's going to happen at some point in the season, just not today.
And that has really big underlying consequences too, because Brad is still a free agent, and I'm sure Team Penske wants to keep him around. I'm sure even though there's like an inter-team rivalry going on, Joey Logano is going to want to keep him there. That's a great shoulder to lean on when they're having their troubles. That inevitably happens to every single team. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see if something that one of the other drivers do, or maybe even something that Roger Penske does himself, ends up pushing Brad out the door to another team, say like the 48, for example. We know there's a lot of debate going on about who's going to be in that car. You have to think he's the front runner. I mean, it's really like
I'm on Team Brad, personally.
it's either him or like a guy like Eric Jones, somebody that's not really too proven. You can always go the Corey LaJoy route or something like that, but we don't know what his ceiling is because it's always been capped by his equipment.
Oh, definitely it'll be Noah Gragson. He seems perfectly ready.
Oh, we forgot to mention something that you
Oh
just
yeah,
reminded me about. He got put in the hauler. Yeah,
because he wrecked too many cars. I mean, I feel like that's a bit harsh for like 2 wrecks, but I mean, at the same time, can't say it's completely unwarranted.
I don't understand why they did it this week and not after Las Vegas, because I would say that his Auto Club incident was just racing. I really can't put that on anybody. He was just going for a position that wasn't completely there, ended up getting caught up. That's just something that happens to the best of them. We see that happen to guys like Kyle Busch all the time. But I would definitely see where they're coming from if they base it up more off of what happened at Las Vegas, where he just straight up turned Myatt Snyder for no reason.
I
But
think just the culmination of everything in the last few weeks just led to that, honestly.
yeah, they just weren't having any of it, and
Fair play, honestly.
I mean, it worked out in their opinion, I'm sure, because if you looked at Saturday's race, Noah Gragson was really nowhere to be found in any controversy. He had a solid day, nothing too crazy. Won a stage, went home with a pretty much intact car. So
That's what he needed to just get his head in there. Just a slap on the wrist from old Steve Phelps.
So that was the races this weekend. If you paid attention to our picks from the last weekend, they did not go well. None of the following people won: Harvick, Kurt Busch, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch. Somehow Kurt Busch always ends up in these picks. I don't know why. So nobody else gets a win this week. That might change this time, because for this weekend's race at Atlanta, I'm going with my same pick as last week. I'm going with Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick is one of those guys who's just always fast there. It's called the Harvick line when you run the bottom in 3 and 4. That should just prove how dominant he's been. Everybody else has started to do that strictly because it's what works for him. I think we're going to see another classic Harvick dominant race, and he's going to pull it off. What do you think?
You know what? I'm going to go a bit out there, as I'm known to do. I'm picking Jimmy Johnson for this race. You know what? I like what I've seen out of Hendrick's mile-and-a-half program this year. I'm saying Jimmy gets it done at Atlanta. Why not? Definitely going to be a driver's track with how treacherous it is. I think he can get it done.
It's probably fair to say that this is a decent pick. Like last year, I think we would have all argued with you if you went to pick him anywhere, really, not even just the big tracks. But I feel like the Hendrick cars are going to be strong this week too. That could definitely happen.
Get some luck his way. It could absolutely happen.
So we have a full plate of races this week, so we're going to have a lot to talk about on next week's show. We have the ARCA East race. They go to 5 flags. There's obviously the triple header at Atlanta. Both races are on Saturday, the Xfinity and truck race, and then we have the Cup main event on Sunday. Saturday night / Sunday morning, depending on where you may live, there's an F1 race, the season opener.
Right.
I'm excited for that.
There's actually a crowd for that one.
There is, yes. You're going to hear noise. It's not just cars.
So Kyle is going to be in Atlanta. So how are you going to watch that? Are you just going to stay up till 2 a.m. with the boys, watch it?
There is actually a small watch party being formed. There's no details quite yet, but I know that after a very long day at the track on Saturday, we will be watching the Formula 1 race. I would say I would discuss it on the podcast, but I don't think I'm going to be here when we record next week. So we're going to have Mike Fallon and a whole group of people that I am not sure of yet that are going to be on the show. I'm sure it'll be great. We always do our investigative journalism when we bring people on here, as you can see by Arnold. But
hard investigating, hard hitting, dangerously close to educational journalism.
Exactly. We almost teach you things here.
Almost.
But nonetheless, a lot of things to talk about. Oh, and I didn't even mention the IndyCar series starts this Sunday. That's at I think 3 p.m. They're at St. Pete. So I don't think the Cup race and the IndyCar race line up perfectly, but it's probably going to rain on Sunday, if we're being honest. So you might end up being able to see the IndyCar race anyway. That being said, I'm Kyle Riley. He's Arnold Columbia. Both of our Twitters can be found below in the description. You'll also be able to see the Racing Observer's Twitter. Please follow it. There's like 10 followers, and we usually average about 140 to 150 viewers every episode. So make sure to check that out. Sometimes we're going to be late. Like next week, I don't really know even when we're going to be recording the show. It may or may not come out on Wednesday or Thursday instead of the usual Tuesday time slot. So if you want to be in the loop, either follow that or follow Mike's Twitter, which I guess we'll also put in the link below if you don't already follow him. Because if anything changes regarding the show or any other uploads that may or may not be on this channel, that's the best way to get in the loop. That being said, until next week, we'll see you next week.